Hello, and welcome to the latest motorcycles, possibly bikes, guns, the universe, and everything episode. Uh, I've not done any videos for a while. I've been really busy. I was training for a ridiculously long push bike ride in the Lake District. I also changed my job and found my new job takes up a lot more of my time. And the practical sort of planning and also just life in general means that it's not always possible to sit in front of a camera. Even now, that at any moment one of my kids could just like clang into the kitchen and start making a racket. So it's I just don't get time or opportunity. But I wanted to make this video because this involves me months of planning, years even really. The first sort of thought of this was just over 2 years ago when my dad died, and he'd left on various bits of paper that he wanted his ashes to be taken to a place called Mahee Island in Strangford Lough in Northern Ireland, which is where we're originally from. I was born there, but we moved to Britain because of the Troubles, and in '72. So it was really kicking off at the time, and my mum she's from England, and she was just terrified, and she took me and my sisters home, and my dad came as well. But there's no doubt my dad's heart was always in Ulster. There's almost like two stages to his life, probably more like three, but stage one was in Ireland, and he had this sort of idyllic almost upbringing, living in the country, shooting, hunting, fishing, learning all sorts of things from his father, my grandfather, who he and his father, his mother had left when he was little to live with another man in Belfast, and so my great grandfather and had to bring up my grandfather by himself. I think he had some help, but they lived in a house with no electricity, running water, gas, anything like that. So my granddad was a real like survivalist almost. He could make and do, catch, eat anything, and he taught a lot of that to my dad, and my dad taught me a bit. I'm not saying I'm of the same caliber. I'm not. So that's some of the history. My dad had this affinity with Mahee Island when he was a younger man. He'd been a scout leader in the Sea Scouts, the local Sea Scouts troop of Strangford Lough, and I did think of visiting, but it's 50 years ago. Who's going to know anything about my father? So yeah, he feels that his ashes have to be there, and I'm probably going to break all sorts of rules by taking his ashes there. But the thought of going through bureaucracy just to put a few ash and bone fragments into the general area just sort of goes against a lot of how I feel about the world, if you see what I mean. I don't think you should need permission for things like that, and I'll face whatever punishments are meted out to me in this crazy bureaucratic cesspit world that we live in. So yeah, I guess first thing that I did was, because I didn't even have permission to take his ashes, my mum and I had disagreements after my dad died, and we didn't speak for nearly 2 years. And but I knew that I had to take these ashes back. It was just preying on my mind. I was having dreams. I just thought about it all the time. I was obsessed. and I had to do something about it. And so I couldn't go to my wife and say, "Oh, I need to like use a load of money to get to Ireland to take my dad's ashes back," because like many wives, and we're you can see by my surroundings, we're certainly not well off. Uh, I knew this was going to be a big financial commitment, and I know that we haven't got much money, so I had to do it behind her back. Uh, so I arranged for money to get a bike and pay for the insurance and do some maintenance. Had to get a new helmet, as my old one was like from 2013. So it's a poor life, but I want to preserve it. And yeah, and all booking the ferries and obviously accommodation when I get there. And I had to do pretty much get all of that ready, and then eventually I had to tell her, and that was dramatic, but we came through it like we have with so many other things over the last nearly 30 years. And when I go, all my petrol will be on an overdraft because I've just changed jobs, and although my new job is better paid, I hadn't been there. I've only been there 2 weeks, so they are not going to give me any holiday pay. So I'll be near enough 2 weeks down on money by the time I get back, which is a huge issue for us. But sometimes you just have to tighten your belts, and to and this is an honour thing. This is a pride thing, not that sort of pride. And it had to be done. He has to go back home, and I have to do it. I bought a Triumph Tiger, an older one, 06, and it's an okay bike. It's pretty nippy, decent on fuel. It's got a big fuel tank, but some might call this silly. The main reason I bought it was because in the registration it's got a G and a W, which was my dad's initials. Well, it's GEW, but there was, that was too much to ask for coincidence, wasn't it? And so yeah, and the idea was that he'd flitted to and from England and Ireland early on in the 60s and even the 50s on Triumphs and Nortons as well. But good luck with buying a Norton for less than £2,000 that's capable of doing that sort of distance I'm talking about. So a Triumph it had to be. I wanted to make it as poignant as possible, because there's no second go at this. I have no support. I'm having. It'll take me 3 years to pay off what it's costing me to take him. Which is a big deal. So I'll be 56 by the time I've paid this off. Maybe I can do it quicker because my new job is better paid. We'll see. So yeah, I mean it's a very simple. I haven't really made an itinerary. I can't really afford to do very much except maybe ride around a bit. So that's what I'll probably do. I was going to ride to Portrush and Port Ferry and Giant's Causeway and that kind of thing. Sort of. But I'm only there for a few days, and then so I'm going up to Stranraer, and the reason is, I mean, it's a hell of a ride. It's like 344 miles, I think, and it's nearly 6 hours of riding, and I will have to stop and refuel at some point. So it's not the easiest way, but it's the way again that's more poignant for me. I can remember as a small boy flitting back and forward between Ireland as my father and mother tried to keep up our relationship with our family in Ireland, which ultimately failed. I don't know any of them now. I don't even have anybody to visit because we haven't spoken for 30 years. But Anyway, I can remember, when I was a kid, in some sort of old car. We always had old cars because we've never really, we were wealthy for one small point in the between 86 and 96 or something like that, where we did okay, and we had better vehicles and stuff. But when I was a kid, we had absolutely nothing. We came over to England with nothing. We had to stay, a 5-person family in my grandparents' 3-bedroomed house, and it was pretty difficult. And then we managed to get a council house with the help of a local MP in Derby, and then my parents saved, and my dad was a good musician. He was a country and western singer in a band called the Nielsen's, and also briefly another band called Dark Horse. And he was in, and maybe one or two others briefly over the years, mostly country and western and sort of like 60s revival kind of thing. But he was pretty decent. He wasn't Eric Clapton, although he could sing better than Eric Clapton, but almost anybody can. But he was a good rhythm guitarist, and he could play the keyboards pretty well, and we could play the penny whistle. That was his first musical instrument when he was a little boy in Belfast. So I don't know where I don't know where I was then, but yeah, okay. So I've completely lost where I was now. Just the journey, the journey going to Stranraer. So I can remember just being like so bored, just watching the lights on the road. We did it in an old Volvo 140. We did it in some sort of 1800 Leyland thing. We did it in a Mini. We did it in loads of different cars, and it was just so we always went that way. My dad, I don't know what my dad's reasoning was. I mean, obviously ferries in those days were a lot more primitive, and if you were caught in bad weather, old ferries were like terrifying, especially with a load of kids and vomit everywhere and all that. But so I think that's why I used to go to Stranraer, because it's only a 2-hour crossing or thereabouts. And whereas if you go from Holyhead or Liverpool, it's much longer. So yeah, that's why I'm doing it. Not because it's the easiest way, but because it's the way, the only way. And I'll be coming back that way as well, possibly going to my friend's house. He lives in the North Lake district, so it's sort of on the way, sort of level, go across a bit and down. So yeah, I might do that. I don't know for sure yet. He's invited me. He's a big motorcyclist, and he has lots of motorbikes. And the place that he sort of lives at is like a motorcycle sort of haven, bunkhouse, meeting point place. So yeah, so I might do that. I don't know. I'll see how I feel. And yeah, that's kind of it really. That's I've got to today I've got to go to my mother's and get the ashes. And it's a very strange thing to be holding your father in your hands. It is. And I can remember him taking me on motorbikes. Sorry, you just don't know where it comes from when you're talking like this. You don't know how it's going to turn out. So anyway, I've got a lot to do. I will do more videos on this subject while I'm in Ireland as well. And yeah, it's just I've just got to get on with the business of taking Dad back home, and that's it. I can't see anything beyond that now. That's it. Okay. So yeah, sorry about losing it slightly there, but I'm sure a lot of people my age will understand how that feels to lose your father. Okay. See you next time.